Hey guys, welcome to whatever this is. I am Delaney, and I think I know what I want to talk about today. Um, that being said, it's not a guarantee. I could start on one thing and end up on a completely different thing. I've learned that about myself. Um, Learning about yourself, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Um, I remember being back in high school and several times during my life where I was in conversations with people who were going to spend some time to find themselves. And I think a lot of times in high school that really is kind of a thing, right? Where, um, well, I'll take a year off before I go to university or college and I'll find myself. And I think maybe there is, for some people, some benefit in that. Um, I, I never ever did see the benefit in that. And even today, I'm kind of questioning if you can actually just sit down and find yourself. Um, and the reason I say that is because we constantly change. If we don't change, we're gonna fall behind. And I don't want to say that in a negative way, but think of your life and all of the things that have changed in it over the last 10 years, even, or even 5. And as you get older, like me, you'll start to see how things change over 5 years and over 10 years. The 5 year plan and 10 year plan, um, even 2 years, things can change an awful lot in it. And I think one of the biggest things about finding ourselves now is understanding, when we do find ourselves, understanding ourselves to the point that we understand that we have to leave room for change, and we have to leave room for growth. We have to leave room for the eventuality that we're going to have to tear down almost everything that we consider ourselves to make room for something new at some point. And um, kind of a story that I wanted to kind of relate to you guys was, I was thinking specifically of a partner that I had, and them telling me about their childhood and how um, their parents had actually over the years told them that they weren't wanted, that they were a mistake. They were the youngest of their family, and at some points I got it because my family maybe didn't actually outright tell me this, but I certainly got it from side conversations and the way that they just generally treated me over my lifetime, um, that I wasn't valuable, right? Um, that the only reason that I was around was to do things for them, and anything outside of that was going to be met with some sort of punishment or retribution of some sort. And I guess that's a sad way to grow up, right? I was kind of blessed in my life with, once I got out of my family's house, I kind of, not really, but I did make a life for myself. I put my family's um, belittlement of me off to the side and kind of tried to just build myself up a little bit. I had no idea that the way that I was building myself up back then was going to be completely for naught and built in the wrong direction, but it was a starting point, and I did it. I built myself up, however unhappily, into a position that looked normal to the outside world, and it got me by. I'm not gonna lie, it made me it gave me a career, it made me trustworthy, it made me reliable, and made me love, or it made me into a lovable person. Now the lovable person um, was to those outside of myself, not to myself at all. I struggled with self-worth my whole life, and that was because my family growing up and the people around me, they really did love me for what I could do for them and not who I was. And I remember listening to this story about how my partner at that time struggled through their childhood and related to it. But then they got to the part where they left home and they moved in with a partner. And the story to me was just incredibly sad because I seen at that point how the new partner reinforced all of the beliefs that their family had put on them. They weren't enough, that they were there to be used. Basically, their value came from what they could do and what they could provide for their partner. And it led to years of believing that they weren't a person. They weren't actually worth anything, right? Um, and I've been blessed over the last few years for sure to watch that person grow, right? To watch them blossom really into a spectacular human being who doesn't or doesn't believe anymore that their worth is dependent on what they can do for other people. Now, that being said, they do still struggle with the boundaries that they had to create through that understanding process. And by boundaries that they had to create, I mean they had to start somewhere, right? So the next person who came along who valued them for what they did, they had to push them aside, or they had to stand, they had to commit to their boundaries, they had to enforce them. And it was a struggle for them. I watched them over the years, those boundaries collapse over and over and over again, and the fallout that would come afterwards, where they would be heartbroken because somebody had taken advantage of them again. But each time they did that, their boundaries grew a little more, and they were a little stronger with the next people. And the successes that came with that, you guys, was so heartwarming. And for me, it was a complete meditative moment where I would experience joy from those successes, right? And those successes a lot of times were successes that were born of heartbreak, because they would be successes that they would have to manufacture from losses. And as much as they hurt me to watch them going through it, there was great joy at the end of it, while they reinforced and enforced the boundaries that they set each time that something happened. And eventually I got to a point where I could watch them start to love themselves for who they were, not for I just snorted and I did it again. I started to watch them develop a self-worth, and from that self-worth, self-love. And what did that self-love bring them? It brought them even more strength to set more boundaries. And now that person is a completely different person. They're still the same person to look at and be around. They've maintained every little ounce of empathy and courage and love and joy that they had hidden inside them, but now it's brought to the forefront. And I watched them take great pride in enforcing a boundary and watching people accept it, because now when they enforce a boundary, it's accepted and taken as an overstep, because those boundaries have been in place for years now. They've just haven't been enforced rigorously because of self-doubt. Now that self-doubt is gone because they understand who they are and they're pushing forward in life. And it's a great strength. And I talk about it in my videos all the time, where I say be you. That's super important, because the learning to be you gives you strength in yourself. It gives you an understanding on how to be you again tomorrow. And in that gives you strength, love, so much love for yourself, that it provides a sense of strength. And in that sense of strength, you start to learn how to stand up for yourself, how to fight for yourself. And that, you guys, that is so important, because you stop taking those little steps back every time that your boundaries are stepped on or crossed, and you come back stronger and brighter every time. This is 10 minutes, and I have so much more to say on this subject, but I guess it's going to have to wait for another day. Be you. Be ruthless with it. Be selfish with it. There's nothing more important in this whole world than being you in every given moment that you can find. And every time you do it, it becomes a little easier for the next time that you have to do it. And it brings you a little bit more joy.